Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are going completely behind the scenes to look at what it actually takes to win at the negotiating table. We're going to break down a set of classic, incredibly effective negotiation principles straight from our source material, and we're turning them into an actionable toolkit for your very next deal. Because look, whether you're buying a house, haggling over a salary, or trying to land some massive corporate contract, the actual mechanics of leverage, they're surprisingly the same across the board. We are completely stripping away the generic advice today to get to the raw psychology of why deals actually close.
So here's our roadmap for getting there. First up, leveraging your unique value. Second, never looking desperate. Third, discovering the true motivation. Fourth, taking analyzed risks. And finally, building a closing brand. All right, let's jump right in.
So right off the bat, we need to completely reframe what a deal actually is. It's not just a financial transaction. It's a psychological exchange of value and leverage. Honestly, if you walk into a room and you're only thinking about spreadsheets and dollar amounts, you've kind of already lost. We are operating entirely on a psychological level here. You're dealing with human beings, and human beings are driven by perception, by what they desire, and by leverage. Once you really internalize that you're playing a psychological game, the whole board just completely opens up for you.
Which brings us to pillar number 1, leverage your unique value. This is all about finding that undeniable advantage.
Let's think about a super common example from the source, a low-mileage used car. It's a completely standard model. The buyer could literally walk down the street and find the exact same car on 3 other lots. So on the surface, it feels like you have absolutely zero leverage, right? Actually wrong. Your specific car happens to have incredibly low mileage. That right there is your undeniable advantage. The source text makes a huge point of this. You have to relentlessly highlight this unique element throughout the entire deal. You absolutely cannot let the conversation drift off to the stereo system or a scratch on the paint job. No, you anchor their entire psychology to that one unbeatable metric. You make it the absolute center of the universe. Because the ultimate goal here is to make them unable to say no. By keeping the spotlight relentlessly on your one unique advantage, you're basically backing them into a logical corner. Think about it. If they want the absolute most reliable version of that car, they literally have to buy yours. You've completely removed their logical objections by pushing the one thing the competition just cannot match. You are essentially manufacturing leverage out of thin air.
Moving on to pillar number 2, never look desperate. Let's talk about the incredible power of keeping your options open. So picture the desperate negotiator for a second. Their internal monologue is basically screaming, "Please, let's do this, you're my absolute only option." Now contrast that entirely with the empowered negotiator, whose vibe is much more, "Look, I have options, but I will absolutely commit if we can agree on the terms." The psychological difference between those two states is just staggering. It's human nature. We all naturally want what's hard to get, right? Pleading just signals that you've been totally rejected by the market. But poise signals that you are a highly sought-after prize. Making the other side feel like they're just one of many options inherently makes you so much more valuable.
So how exactly do we broadcast this kind of power? Well, first rule, never tell them they are your only option, even if they actually are. You need to show that you have value elsewhere. You want to make them feel like they are just one of several options sitting on your table. And you only offer up your full 100% commitment when the deal parameters are totally locked in. Broadcasting that you have options translates directly into tangible value, and it shifts the power dynamic of the whole room heavily in your favor.
All right, pillar number 3. Discover the true motivation. This is where we find the hidden pain point.
I want you to ask yourself this question right now. Is a deal always about the money? Well, most people would automatically say yes. But in the most successful, high-level deals, the answer is actually surprisingly no.
To put this into perspective, think about someone spending their very first paycheck on a really nice gift for their mom. Are they ruthlessly calculating the lowest possible price point? No way. Their motive is entirely emotional. They're looking to provide a memorable experience and remarkable value. But now compare that to someone who's selling off an asset simply because they need to pay off a looming loan by Friday. They are totally devoid of sentimentality. They are driven by the cold, hard logic of just needing quick cash. If you don't know which of these two mindsets is sitting across the table from you, you literally do not know how to structure the deal.
Now, if you discover their motive actually is fast money, well, their desperation essentially hands you the keys to the castle. They aren't looking for a friend here, they're looking for an ATM. And because you are the one providing the exact solution they need right this very second, which is speed, you get to completely dictate the terms. In the real estate world, this is a classic tactic. It's exactly how investors close deals at a fraction of the asking price, simply because a fast close is suddenly way more valuable to the seller than holding out for top dollar.
Which leads us right into pillar number 4. Take analyzed risks. Let's talk about the absolute necessity of the jump.
There's this fantastic metaphor from the source material. If you want to drop, you must jump. It's incredibly profound when you think about it. You cannot experience a change in elevation or, make actual progress without physically taking your feet off the ledge. You absolutely have to take a leap. But, and this is a massive but here, jumping blindly is exactly how you totally ruin a negotiation. So, how do we jump safely? We follow a really strict process. First, avoid unusual or wildly unpredictable risks. Second, analyze the situation deeply. Third, you take that calculated leap. But the real secret sauce here, it's step 4, know your exact next step. A master negotiator is a lot like a grandmaster in chess. They only sacrifice a piece because they already see the checkmate 3 moves ahead, right? They only take a risk when they have perfectly, flawlessly mapped out exactly what their follow-up move will be, no matter how the opponent reacts.
And finally, pillar number 5, build a closing brand. This is the ultimate shortcut to getting a yes.
When you successfully combine all of these tactics over time, you achieve the ultimate gold standard in deal-making. People start saying, a deal from them? Just accept it. When you actively build this undeniable image of doing fair, highly leveraged, and meticulously calculated deals, all the usual friction just literally melts away. Your opponent completely trusts the brand you've built. They know you don't play desperate games. They know your offers are thoroughly calculated. So their automatic reaction to your proposal just naturally becomes an immediate, resounding yes. So, I'm going to leave you with this one provocative thought. Does your reputation enter the room before you do? When you pull out a chair and sit down at the table, are you starting from zero, or is your closing brand already actively negotiating on your behalf? If you apply this holistic toolkit, using your unique leverage, keeping your poise, finding their true motivation, taking calculated risks, and building that brand, just watch how the entire dynamic shifts in your next big deal. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there and make them absolutely unable to say no.